Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. So I was just fixing my some of the issues I was going through with my streaming. Now, you guys understand I'm used to this and I am doing my best to, to offer you guys and to give you guys my information, all that I am doing when it comes to web development, coding, programming, which is my passion and my first love, and I enjoy coding. So I want you guys to join me. Like that, we can build together, construct together, and I am actually, learning how to stream at the same time. So in order for you to stream and code and record your screen at the same time, you have to work with multiple applications. Right now, I'm working with OBS and obviously my VS Code. So right now, I'm supposed to be live on YouTube, but I want to make sure. Let me see. This stream can be accessed again from the managed list. Exiting will not end a stream if. Let me see what's going on here. I just want to make sure that finish streaming, dismiss. Okay, so now, okay, so I am live. I just want to make sure I'm live on YouTube. I know I'm live on Twitch because Twitch, by pressing this button here is live on Twitch, and if I press this button for YouTube, this button does not signify that it's live on YouTube. So I have to go to my YouTube page and make sure that I'm live. Right now, I can see that I'm live, so I'm good. So I could actually close YouTube for now because I am live. So close YouTube. I'm gonna double check and see if I'm live on Twitch. Twitch I can manage through here through this account, and then I'm just gonna go to Twitch. There you go. That's my channel. That's my channel, so it's working perfectly. So I'm gonna close this, so now I know that everything's working. And for you guys that are trying to learn how to stream just like I am, that's one of the ways that you check and make sure that everything is working. So I'm gonna go ahead and hide my OBS. You guys don't need to see my OBS. I'm gonna press apply. Now you can't see my OBS. I'm gonna go ahead and move it over to my other screen, which is my laptop. And as fun as it is to do this, it's like a crawl because I'm using a third, well, it's kind of like a third party plugin or app for me to use my second laptop screen versus having an actual monitor. I have this actual laptop, but two separate laptops, and I had to download a specific plugin for that, or app, if that's what you want to call it. It's called Space Desk. So Space Desk driver is the one is has to be on my main computer, and this is on the second computer, which is the viewer. So I'm able to see what's going on my OBS because OBS tends to be a little buggy, even though it's the best um decoder, I believe that's what they call it. It's the best decoder there is out there, or screen recorder. It still has little bugs here and there, and one of the worst ones is like almost like the black screen of death or blue screen of death. Kind of, it's like it just shuts down and you have to restart it, and then whatever you were recording, you think you're recording, but in the background, OBS is dead. It's not working at all. So yeah, so I want to keep OBS on my second screen so I can look on my second screen and make sure that everything's working properly. So let's go ahead and start our journey. In my last video, if you were watching my last video, I think I have somebody on my chat. Let me say hello. That would be nice. Let me see. Hi, how are you? Let's see if they have something to say. I never had someone. I wonder who this is though. If I click there, it's gonna tell me following whisper badges. Yeah, you know, I guess I it would be nice if I could show you this. But anyways, let me keep it moving. I don't want to keep you guys, you know, I'm not sure if you can actually see this. Nope, you can't see the Twitch activity feed. Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and keep it moving. Let me move this to the other side. Oh, I could put it right here. Cool. So first and foremost, I ran into some very simple mistakes. Now, the thing about mistakes is, or errors or bugs or silent bugs, whatever you want to call it, these mistakes, when you go through these mistakes, they become what? Learning moments. It's like what's the name of the famous inventor? Yeah, I forgot his name. Edison, right? So Edison, remember what Edison said about the light bulb? That he tried 100 times and he failed 99 times. And they were like, wow, you failed 99 times. He's like, no, I didn't fail 99 times. I learned 99 ways of how not to make a light bulb work. So it's a learning moment. So basically, one of my biggest mistakes was, let me go to my recent files real quick. Or matter of fact, let me open a new window so I might need these files here later. So I'm gonna open my recent projects, which was in, I believe isn't, no, it's this one here. It's in here, my app, point 1.1, right? So let me open my terminal, press Control Backtick. And now I want, if you saw my last live stream, I was using the command dir, right? Okay, so now it's working. And it took me almost a half an hour to 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 try. I was trying to figure it out. I should have known, right? And at the end I figured it out, but it was more like a patch. It was like a patch. I really didn't figure out, but I did get the results I was looking for. But it was my results was PWD, right? So PWD is PWD is print or write something like, let me see. Let me go to my, I don't want to waste my tokens and my Git Copilot. So if I click here and I type in here PWD, let's see what answer he gives me, right? No. PWD was a typo. He thinks it's a typo. Okay. So I could just type in here um, PWD CMD, all right? And this means print working directory. I'm not used to these abbreviations. I use them before. Again, if you guys don't know my backstory, I haven't been a consistent programmer, coder, developer, but I do have a lot of years working with different languages. So I do have experience. I am familiar with these commands. It's just that I haven't been as consistent as I wanted to because, I keep saying life, right? Life, you have to keep living. You have to figure out your means and ways of, taking care of your responsibilities. And becoming a programmer, a developer was one of my, it's still my dream, and I'm doing the best that I can to get there. And so that's why I don't know these commands as well as I want to know them. Anyway, so yeah, so this is print working directory. So this is the working directory, right? I'm inside my app 1.0. Great. So now my thing was I was in a different down. Let me open the window, a new window, so I can show you where I was when that mistake happened. I was actually in here, right? But if we go in here, let's go in here. right? I have the same project, but within another project, and that's because I created that directory inside uh my app 4 because I was showing you guys how to create a directory, right? And that was the main issue. So I did something like this. I did MK, right, McDeer. I did something like this, right? Let's put 2.0 now. Or let's put a bogus number, 44. And I press enter. And when I did that, I created it in here. But yeah, I was showing you guys how to create my app 4. And for some reason, I was expecting to get the results. I was expecting to get this. I was expecting to get the starter folder and the tokens folder. I was expecting it to get this result by typing this, dir, right? But I wasn't getting it because I was in this location, right? So let me show you. So I'm gonna go to Reveal and File Explorer. I'm gonna go ahead and copy this over here. And then I'm gonna change directory, CD, right? CD, I'm gonna press. So now I'm in a different directory. Actually, not in here. In here, I'm gonna change it right here. CD, Control V. Now I'm in a different, now I'm in the directory, in a different directory. Now, here's the thing. I was actually in this directory. So this is where the confusion started, right? So let me CD. I'm actually in my directory, the correct directory. This directory is my directory with these files and folders, with these folders. I know because we can see it visually. But when you go to the terminal, and let's change directory one more time so you can see what I mean. Now I'm in my app 1.0, which is it reads my app 1.0. This is the root directory. My here in this file location path, and this path, the root directory is not my app 1.0. The root directory is actually program underscore execution, but to tell you the truth, the one that we're focusing on is this one, my app 4. This is technically the root directory. If we look at the other, see, this is the root directory here. Yeah, it's confusing. See what I mean? I got confused by looking at the last file folder, and I thought that I was in this folder. So when I went ahead and typed dir, it gave me the wrong folders, because this is how you know that you are in the right directory in the terminal. This directory and what you're doing in the terminal are two different directories. It doesn't give you a warning or error saying, hey, you're in the terminal directory is not the same directory that you're physically in. You are pointing to a different directory here. In this case, I am. So I have to go back to my actual directory, which is C, right? Backslash, right? Program underscore exe, then backslash, right? And then I could press up, like, oh no, I can't. Backslash, and then my app, right? This one. So this is my root directory. This is correct. They're both correct, meaning they're both pointing to the correct path location. This was in the same path location. This one is in the same path location. So now if I type the command dir, now it shows my right location. So if you watch my previous video, you're gonna see that I was going all over the place trying to figure out. Even when I was asking the user agent, he told me multiple times that my terminal tab, this tab is in the wrong directory. I could open another tab over here, right? And then I could like go into the wrong path location, like here. This is the wrong path location. And if I enter dir, I'm in the wrong. It's gonna confuse me. No, this. Wait a minute. I'm not in the right path location. But then he was telling me you're in the wrong tab. So now I could go to the correct tab. This is the correct tab. So now they're pointing to the same location. Program execution, my app 1.0, right? Okay. You see? So that's why he said maybe you're in the wrong tab. So yeah, it's a learning moment. Okay, so we figured that out. If that happens to you, you already know what to do. So one other thing that I ran into, I believe was let me see, I think I have my notes here. Yeah. And the ECMAScript. For some reason I was confusing this with ECMAScript. What's my blank sandbox here? I just want to correct this because I don't want to give you guys the wrong information. So this is classic ECMAScript. It's not even ECMAScript. Well, it's classic ECMAScript. That's what it is. So let's ask our user agent if this is classic ECMAScript and what can he tell us about that. Well, actually, I don't want to waste my tokens again, so I'm gonna go and just go to Google, and Google's gonna tell me more or less what this means. Is this classic ECMAScript? Right, so let's see what he says. Yes, this is a classic ECMAScript, right? Classic script because it omits the type attribute or uses a standard JavaScript source. The browser treats it as a traditional synchronous script rather than an ECMAScript module. To explicitly mark a script as an ECMAScript module, you must add type module. Right. So let's see what else he says here. Would you like to know the difference in how browsers handle classic script versus module script, or how to use attributes like defer or async? So what I want him to do is to give me an example. Give me an example of ECMA. I mean, I could show you too. Like, let me go to my other projects. So an actual ECMAScript works like this. Let me go to my JavaScript folder, which is here. And I'm gonna go to my app. So this is ECMAScript. This is the it gives it the, I keep saying the word opportunity, but that's the wrong terminology. It's not foundation either. It gives it the, you know, it gives it the, let's say, powers. It gives it the ability to use import and export, right? So this is import and export, and this is one of the reasons why it's ECMAScript. So I could go to, like, let's say another JavaScript, and you see this is import also, but then I want to show you the export. Then this is export. You see? So we're exporting this code right here, this code block, and it's called init variables app. And if we go to another JavaScript, see, now we could import it because it's now able to be imported because of the export. If we don't add export, we wouldn't be able to use this method. We wouldn't be able to use this method. Right, so let me ask, let's see, now I'm actually going to use, let me move my microphone. Okay, now I'm actually going to use my user agent, and I'm going to ask him, is this, I want to know if it's a method or a function. Is this a method or a function? This method function thing can be quite finite, should I say infinite, when it comes to understanding the difference, because it can be a little overwhelming at first. I'm checking the currently open file to see exactly what construct you're pointing at. Then I'll tell you whether it's a method or a function. I read the relevant section of the active file now and classified it based on how it is declared and where it lives. This is a function, not a method. Specifically, the variable is an no, the function is an exported function declaration. It would be a method only if it were defined on an object or class, uh, or inside class body. These are the terminologies that we need to pay attention to, because see, a class can be completely different in an HTML than in JavaScript. So those are terms that you need to. It's 4th of July, people. They're gonna start throwing fireworks. So don't be surprised if you hear a loud bangs here and there. So let me okay, so let me take this. This is gonna be because I'm gonna need him when we're using when we're actually coding. So let me see. You know what? Let me see what he says about this. Your initializing function, okay. So my thing is I want to understand why would it be inside class body? I would It would be a method only if it were defined on an object or a class. What do you mean by class? What do you mean by class? Is it like a CSS class? Hmm. Because when we go to the index.html, you're gonna see, wow, that's a small index.html file. There should be a this one has a lot more information. Okay, great. This one I like. C class. See what I mean? So the class here is a direct has a direct correlation with the one in the CSS. So if we look at the CSS, right? Where's my CSS file? This is JS, JavaScript, and this is the styles. Great. If we go in here, yeah, we haven't used it yet, but a class will start like if we want to use this class right here, page shell, it would be this like this, right? This is basic CSS and HTML 101. A dot and then oh sorry, a dot, and let's say I put PA page. Yeah, it's not gonna come up the auto complete. See, that's how you write a class in CSS. All right. So, anyways, and the ID would be a hashtag. This is an ID, right? I know I'm not. So let me see what he tells me here. Actually, here. So he says here, great question, great question. I mean, they feel similar in purpose, but they're not the same thing. As he says, a class is a label you attach to an HTML element so you can style many elements the same way. In JavaScript, a class is a blueprint for creating objects with data and behaviors. Quick comparison. CSS class, organized visual styling. Example, all buttons with the class are blue. JavaScript class, organized code and logic. Example idea. All user objects have a name and a logic method. So when people say JavaScript class is like CSS class, they usually just mean both help organize things under a reusable name. Okay, so reusability. That's the key point when it comes to creating a class in JavaScript or CSS and even HTML. So it has a relationship when it comes to definition of some sort, you know? So I mean, I could ask them to give me examples. Give me some examples for JS, CSS, and HTML. Let's put them to work, right? That's the whole purpose of a user agent. Okay, so this is where it gets this is where the fun begins, right? Perfect. Here's one simple example set where all three work together. So HTML example structure, button class, okay? So this is an attribute in HTML, and this is the attribute value. I know it's confusing, even though it's called a class, right? And then ID, that's just an ID. It's a unique selector identifier. This is a unique selector. Okay, so another unique selector. And then CSS, it would be dot button. That's how you create a rule, a class rule in CSS. And yeah, that's the example we're focusing on a class, right? That's why he didn't make any styles for the ID. The ID is with a hashtag. And then we have in JavaScript example behavior, we're gonna create a variable with the identifier button or the name button, and then we're gonna initialize it and assign it the button because we're gonna get the element by ID. Now we assign the button to button. Great. So now we create another one called status, and we assign it. Okay, so it's up here. ID by button ID status. Okay, so here it is. So now status is now has the ID status text. So it's just text. We're assigning the text to status. And then this is the event listener. It's listening for clicks. And then we have here the text content. It's gonna display or it's gonna assign this string to text content, and it's gonna print it out. So it says here how they connect. HTML creates the button and paragraph. Yeah. And CSS styles the button using the class name, and JavaScript listens for a click and updates the text. So it's going to update the text based on the text that the user entered plus this add to cart. So if you want, I can give a second example using a form input, type name, click submit, show greetings. Now let's make this a little fun, right? Let me ask them to help me put this in so we could understand even better, right? In my sandbox. So let's go to our sandbox. And this is how we learn, people. Don't be ashamed. Uh, we got to learn somehow, right? So the thing is, I'm not sure if I have a sandbox here. So I'm gonna bring it over. I don't think I have a sandbox. Let's look for it. So all sandbox. Do we have a sandbox here? Let's see. Oh, oh no, we don't. It's in my yeah, it's in the MD files, but it's not an actual file on its own. It's not an HTML. In order for me to use it, it has to be a physical HTML. And I don't think we have it in here. No, we don't. It's in my other, so let me look for it in my other project. Okay, so I have one here. So I'm gonna go ahead and control copy, control C, and then I'm gonna paste it in my root root folder, the root of this project, which is here, but I'm gonna paste it in the root. Control V. Now we got the sandbox. So now I'm gonna click here and I'm gonna ask them, can you But first, we have to figure out where we're gonna put it, right? Because he's gonna give me a set of rules, I mean instructions to follow in order to make this work in the sandbox. So, hmm, let me create a new HTML, maybe, or you know what? Maybe we could just do it ourselves, no? Yeah, this is gonna take some time for us to figure this out. Let's go ahead and ask him to help us build this in our sandbox. Can you help me? Can you help us build this small project in our sandbox, um, blank sandbox? Let's see what he says. I'm confident he's gonna do a great job. I'll build that mini HTML button project directly in your blank sandbox so you can run it immediately. I'm checking the current sandbox files first and I'll wire the structure from your sandbox, but it looks like yeah, he's building it directly. No, I mean, can you use the sandbox? Now, I have to show him what I mean. This is not it. I gotta show him the trigger. There's a trigger for this, so he can understand what I mean. Okay. So let's see. This is gonna be quite a challenge, I say. No, I mean we need to use this trigger to then follow the instructions to apply in the sandbox. Let me see. X. We need to use this trigger, put it over here, to then follow the instructions to apply it in the blank sandbox, right? So this is another, I'm gonna undo this. This is another, yes, example of how my triggers work, but this is a little off because the way that my trigger works is that I have to first select a line of code or a line of text and then apply apply it to my trigger or my yeah, I have to apply my trigger to whatever I'm selecting or highlighting. So I'm gonna go ahead and press enter and see what he says. Okay, you're right. I'll switch to the sandbox receipt workflow first and apply that recipe into the blank sandbox exactly as requested. So there you go. There you go. That's what he's supposed to do. So now we need to follow these instructions to make this piece of code work. Like that, we understand it better. Okay, so let's see what's gonna happen here. So go build a mini car with a buy button and reset button where clicking buy update status text within running count. So in the HTML pane, we're gonna create one main container with class demo car inside it. So inside it, added a heading that says mini shop demo, then a paragraph with ID status text that starts. Okay, so he's definitely giving out the instructions, but let me tell him to create a transcript like that we can see it in the editor panel or yeah in the editor uh pane panel. Yeah. So because I think that it's a little more difficult to follow it from here. Create one main container with class demo card. Inside it, add a heading that says mini shop demo. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna create a new file, and we're gonna call it B sandbox and then I'm gonna actually I should call it something something that's related to what we're trying to learn here. So since we're trying to build a mini card, I'm gonna call it mini card. Mini card .html, right? And then in here, right, we're gonna go ahead and take this. Give me some examples for JS and CSS, right? So I have to select a line. If I have to highlight a line of code or text or syntax where it's gonna give me the sandbox trigger, right? Which was the trigger? The sandbox recipe, right? But let me tell. Let me see. Perfect. Here is. But it has to be all right. Let me just tell him to put this. Can you put the sandbox recipe in this HTML file? Let's see. HTML pane, okay. Don't copy full code from me. Type each line. Let's see what he says here. I'll insert a sandbox recipe content in your current HTML file so it is embedded and ready to use in the page. I'm reading the file. Oh, there it is. But what do you do? Oh, he put the whole. Let me show him what I mean. Let me go over here. I don't think I have one in here. Let me check. So, yeah, I do have one in here. Let me copy this so I can show him what I mean. This is definitely it right here. Let me undo, because what he did is that he put it inside the sandbox application for me. No, I want to be able to. Let's see if I'm right. Yeah, like yeah, he did everything for me. See, it's already inside. If I run this, it's already inside the panes, the HTML pane, the CSS pane, and the JavaScript pane. But that's not what we're looking for. We're not looking for a quick answer. We want to be able to put in the hard work by following the actual trigger or sandbox recipe. So I'm gonna undo it, press yes, and then I'm gonna copy this so he can see what I mean. Doesn't look exactly like this one over here at all. Well, because it's not an MD file, that's why. So let me change this to MD file. Press F2, and I'll put MD here, and then enter. And now it looks like, now there's similarities. Okay, no, what I mean is for you to run the actual trigger in this MD file, and I'll put here, I just changed it to from MD to, no, from HTML to MD. No, what I mean for you to do is uh, is run the actual trigger in this MD file. I just changed it from HTML to MD so I can follow the trigger instructions. Hopefully this works. Because he's definitely doing his best to satisfy the situation, but since I don't have anything highlighted, he's just gonna keep trying to guess. Not guess, like he's gonna do his best, and that's what he's doing. I believe he got it right now. There you go. So he got something right, I believe. Follow these steps, don't copy more than the snippet above. Okay, so build a tiny page that mirrors your index. Yeah. So let me see. Build a tiny page. Yeah. He's not gonna get it right because I didn't highlight what it was that I wanted him to show us. So this is probably a little too much for him or for us. This is what I'm gonna do, right? Control all. Let me undo it. Yes. We could control all, and then I'm going to take this, right? Control copy, put it in here, and then control all, and then I'm gonna run the trigger sandbox. And let's see if this works. If this doesn't work, then I guess we're gonna have to do our best to figure it out on our own. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Okay. It makes a lot more sense now. I'm gonna keep this one. This is probably it, by the way. And all these yellow lint warnings are not fun to look at all. It just messes everything up. So yeah, this is it. This is what I was looking for. Build a mini. Okay, so create a main. Okay, so he gave us the answer up here, but let me tell him to take off the lint. There's one in here. Clean lint. These are all my triggers that I'm running, by the way. This trigger is supposed to take off all these lints, and there's actually a script that I could write that takes all of it off, that it doesn't happen at all. But I haven't, that was in my previous projects that I was able to do that. And that was probably like 8 months ago. And I've never really looked into it again. I never used it again because I wasn't really fully into coding. And now I'm diving back in. So if you guys want to know how to take off the link, just let me know down in the comments, and I would love to show you guys how to take off the links. It would be an amazing adventure. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep this. So now the links are gone, right? Because of my trigger, right? So basically, if we read over here the instructions, now that we got what we were looking for, so he said, I'll run this, always read your chat box, always, because if you don't read what's in here, you're gonna have a hard time understanding what's in here. So we're gonna practice together reading the chat box. It's probably, yeah. So I'll run the sandbox recipe prompt exactly on your current markdown file by inserting the required use like this block and the nested tip wrap 7-section recipe. I am reading the current file first so I can patch it cleanly. So then he says, I found only a single goal line. So next I'll expand it into the full trigger compliant markdown pattern. And then he's going to use like this code fence plus the nested recipe with the 7 sections. Now what he's talking about is this, right? This is the recipe. And then these are the 7 sections over here. All right, so 1, 2, go is 1, HTML pane is 2, I believe. No. This is, let me check how many are here. Yeah, there's a few of them. So if we look at our, let me see if I have it here. Control Shift P, no, it's P, Control P. There has to be a page or an MD file that explains my triggers. Let me see triggers. Yeah, list triggers. This one right here. So if we look for the sandbox trigger, Control find sandbox, right? Here it is. So it's supposed to tell me 7 code block, 7 fixed sections to go. Okay, so I was correct. So this is one of the sections, the go, 2, 3. All right, you have the go, HTML pane, CSS pane. These are all sections. That's 4. JS pane, 5, 6, 7. Okay, there you go. These are the 7. So if we read it over here, we have the Go, HTML pane, CSS pane, JavaScript pane, what you should see pane or section, sorry, not pane. Well, yeah, section. If it doesn't work, section, and then bonus experiment section, okay? So if you, that's what we have here, 7 sections. All right, great. So then he says here, the trigger output is now in place with the exact nested structure and section order. I'll quickly reread to confirm the markdown is clean and ready for you to follow step by step. Then we're going to go ahead and apply the actual trigger output from your prompt file into the B sandbox mini card MD. So what is now in the file? So this is what's in the file. A proper use like this section. So if we look for the use like this, let's see. I wonder where he put that. I don't think he did. Oh, okay, so it's up here. Used like this. Okay, great. I wonder why it's past tense. I guess it's because he's pretending or creating a scenario in which I was in an actual HTML file. This is not an HTML file. This is an MD file, and I highlighted this section in the HTML file, and then I triggered the sandbox recipe, and when I triggered it, this is what he came out with. So I used like this. Okay. If you guys don't understand, please leave me a comment at the bottom. Again, this is a learning moment. We're all learning together here, right? The difference is that I have a little more experience. That's all. It's nothing crazy. So now, so he says a proper use like this section with a code fence snippet, a nested sandbox recipe directly under the snippet. This is the recipe directly under the snippet. And then the required 7 sections, which I just showed you the 7 sections, right? And the CSS pane is numbered. And if it doesn't work, includes 4 common silent failure checks. If you want, next I can generate a second sibling file with the same trigger format, but for a different mini project, for example, input, submit, and greetings. I think with this trigger alone, you could teach yourself how to code. Because it makes it challenging. You're going to see why. So he says here in the HTML pane, let's open up the sandbox, by the way. which is here. Let's press Control, right click on a empty space, right click, and then open with Live Server, and then we get the actual, yeah, we got the actual, the actual application here, the web application, which is the sandbox, blank sandbox.html, right? So now, yeah, the server started. Okay, so it's live server. So now we have to follow the instructions here. So we're gonna build a mini car with a buy button and reset button where clicking buy updates status text with a running count. So we're gonna create a main. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So copy. And here we're gonna create a main, and then we're gonna close it, right? We're gonna close it right here, back. And that shouldn't happen. Oh, it's forward slash. There you go. So then container, there's the main container using the class demo card, and we're gonna use the class demo card, right? So now in here, we're gonna create the class equals, right? Control V, demo card, but it needs parentheses. I mean, quotes, right? And it's funny because he already did it here for us, but let's not look at that. And then inside it added, I don't think is by the way, I don't think it's identical. I think there's more to it in here. Inside it, add a heading. So one structure paragraph with ID status text. All right, so let's add the heading, right? So the heading is going to be what's inside the main. So we're gonna add a heading, H1, right? And then / H1. And inside here, we're gonna add a heading. Let's just copy the heading from up here. All right, so Control V, and there you go. Mini shop demo. It's just that simple. And in here, we're going to add a paragraph, right? / why? Okay, and it's gonna be waiting for clicks, and this is like a like a loader, and we're gonna give it a class, right? And the class that it's asking me to give is this status text, and it's an ID. It's not a class. So in this case, we're going to add ID equals to, right? Okay, everything's working here. So that's the ID. Great. And one row container with class action. Okay, let's add another container with the class action, and the container is most likely a div. So it's going to be a div, right? And inside this div, we're going to add it a class, right? Let me make sure class action. Okay, so now that holds two buttons. It's going to be buy button. Yeah, let's take a look up here real quick. Okay, so it's a class and ID. Okay, I'm reading it wrong because why would it have two classes here? So you got buy button. Okay. Okay, so the class is going to be, it's inside this thing. Button forward slash button. It's going to be two of them. Control copy, Control V. Okay, then it's going to have an ID. No, I think it's a class first. Yeah, it's a class. So class equals, just copy it from here. Buy buttons class. Okay, and then the ID is going to be, I mean, might as well just copy everything, right? But that's not how we should learn, no? With the type button. Okay. This is what happens when you use the VS Code and IntelliSense and autocomplete. Yeah, autocomplete. There's no autocomplete here, so it's not helping me at all. So it's like I gotta memorize this, no? Simple syntax too, or should I say like codes? So it looks like it's, yeah, there's the button, the first one and the second one. Great. So it doesn't look, these are not errors. They're physically buttons. The first one, you can click it, you see it in the second one. So the class is by button, the ID is by button again, and the type is button. So that's great. So the second one is going to be similar, except that the second one is going to have different class and different ID. So the second one is going to be reset. Is going to be the reset button is the ID. So let me copy this. So no, let me just do it. No, no, no. There's no need for us to rewrite everything. Over here, we can just copy this over. And inside here, we just put it in here and just change the names. That's all. This one is reset button. The ID is reset button. And then the class is secondary button. Okay, great. And type button, right? Yep, and type button, but it doesn't say it here, does it? Create one main container with the class demo card, and then inside it, add a heading, which we did, right? H1, this is the heading. One status paragraph with ID status text. So here's the status paragraph. Status text is like a loader that it's waiting for you, for your click. Status text, there you go. And one row container with class action. One row container with class action. Here's the container, and it's a row because by default a div is a row. Let's go ahead and ask our guy over here, and let's highlight this. This is a div, okay. Is this div by default consider a row container? Let's see what he says. By default, no, a div is not considered a row container. In standard HTML, CSS, div is a block level element. This means it takes up the full width, right, of its parent container. and its parent container is the paragraph. No, the parent is the main. It's the wrapper class. So it takes up the full width of its parent container. It starts on a new line in the document flow. So how is children behave by default? Because button elements are inline block elements by default. They will sit next to each other in a line inside a div until they run out of horizontal. So horizontal is like, obviously here, and vertical is this is the x-axis is horizontal space. However, the div itself isn't acting as a special row container. It's just a standard black box holding them. How to make it a true row container? You see, it says a true row. Right now, it is row though. How to make it a true row? If you want to explicitly turn this div into a robust row container where you can easily control alignment and spacing, you need to apply CSS. So the action display flex, of course. Flex is by default a row, I believe. Yeah. Flex direction. Now we're changing its direction with flex direction. This is the default setting of flex. Make it a row. It easily puts space between your button. And this is the gap. But let me ask him this question. But isn't flex okay? But isn't flex by default a row also? So I hope I get this one right, at least. Yes, you're exactly right. When you apply display flex to a container, its default direction is always row. Great. So the reason your button in the sandbox currently looks like tiny empty blocks stacked horizontally is because of how button elements naturally behave, but the div itself isn't a flexbox container yet. Right, but we're not gonna do CSS right now. The div immediately becomes a true flex row if you add this CSS, then it becomes a flex row. You don't even need a type flex direction row. Yeah, no, you don't, because by default, it's already a row. Unless you want to be explicitly clear, once you add display flex, you can instantly use layouts tools like got 10 pixels to space those buttons out perfectly. Okay, great. So when my user agent tells me over here, right? Let's see. When he says inside, so he says create one main container using class demo card. Inside it, add a heading, one status paragraph with the ID status text, and one row container with class action, right? So one row container with class action. This one right here. Did we add the action? Yes, we did. So one row container with class action. So he's telling me that by default is not a row. But let me ask him if the parent. So is the parent a row of the div action, div of the div? Let's see what he says here. No, it works the other way around. The parent main class demo, it wraps around the div and the text. By default, main is also a standard block level element. It stacks its children. So right now the layout flows like this, H1, yeah, I know that. Sits underneath the div isn't a row of the parent, it's just a block level child inside the parent. So let me paste some of this and see if he can tell me why is this the case. I want to see if he tells me about this. So why is this telling me to let's say create, right? Inside and headings, one status paragraph with ID status text, and one row container. Why? It's telling me to create a row container, to create a row container. Let's see what he says now. I see exactly why you're confused. The prompt is telling you to create a row container because it's describing the intended layout and design row of that div rather than what a standard div does completely by itself without CSS. Oh, okay, that's another thing. I haven't even seen the CSS. Ah, you see? You see when I told you in the first place that this is not the full demo, that something else is missing? Well, the CSS is missing. That's where we take part based on our knowledge and complete the CSS without the help of the HTML. I mean, of the actual trigger, which is my sandbox recipe trigger. My sandbox recipe trigger, the way that it works is that we highlight a piece of code. In this case, we highlighted HTML hypothetically, and we then went over here and we typed in trigger, right? So I can actually do this again, like erase all this, and when I type my sandbox trigger, right, which is this one, and then I press enter. When I press enter, he's gonna print all this out for us, and then we gotta follow these instructions, right? Okay, so that's the whole point of the sandbox trigger, so it teaches how to code based on the recipe. Okay, great. So I was missing this piece over here, and this piece is gonna turn it into a row, I believe. Let's see what he says here. Okay, so he says, okay, so when tutorials or design specifications use the term row container, they mean create a container that is meant to hold a row of items. Here's why they call it that. Semantic meaning, it communicates to you, the developer, that the items inside buy button and reset buttons are supposed to sit side by side like a row, not stacked on top of each other. The blueprint, they want you to set up the structure box, right, the div now, so that when you style it in the CSS section using action display flex, it becomes a functional flex row. In short, div isn't a row container by default, but you are being instructed to make one out of it. Yeah, that was fun. So guys, this is what I call studying. Now, if you were to watch a video tutorial, it's gonna show you how to do this in an instant. The question is, will it stick? It probably will, it probably won't, but I prefer going into depth. You know, we want to dive deep into the situation and then eventually figure it out ourselves and get a little help from our user agent. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next step. And currently, we created this already, right? There's nothing else that's missing. We practically created the same thing. We got the div and the main closed, the closing tags, right? The div and the main closing tag, the two buttons. So two buttons. Let me give it some more space over here. Let me close this. Okay, so now we have a little more space. It's funny, I didn't know we didn't have the we could add this to the intersection to give it more space. All right, so one button, two buttons, great. The div, opening div, closing div, opening main tag, closing main tag, and then the paragraph, and then the heading, great. So now let's jump into the CSS. So the first thing we need to do is create a root element. This is our root element. Okay, so let's go ahead and print it right here. And inside this root element, we're gonna add some CSS custom properties. So let's go ahead and do that. So define tokens for page gradient start and end, base text, muted text, buy button normal, hover, and secondary button hover. So color changes are centralized. So set box. Okay. Hmm. So we got to define these tokens, right? Yeah, that's gonna be quite a challenge. If I could remember how to do this, that would be fun. Define tokens for page gradient, start, and base text. Yeah, guys, that's just something I'm gonna need help with this one, that's for sure. Let's ask our other, well, Control C. Let's ask our other friend over here because, oh, Control C. I'll keep moving this around. Let's ask our other user agent like we did to help us with this because I don't recall the actual steps to create this. I know it has to do with double dashes, that's for sure. But this one here, especially this one here, is the one that let me at least go all the way up to here and see what he could do. We're not gonna reinvent the wheel, people. As long as you have the concept and you're familiar and you know where to go to get the answer, why not? Now, if you just copy and pasting, that's not gonna be um beneficial. Now, this is almost like copy and pasting, but we're gonna take a different route. I promise you. Okay, so let's see. All right, so he says here, based on your sandbox layout, the instructions are asking you to create a CSS custom property variable inside the root selector. This keeps your design tokens organized in one place so you can reuse them throughout your style sheet. So this is like global variables. And let's say like JavaScript, but these aren't actually called global variables. They are CSS custom properties. It just means that we could use them anywhere in the in the in the module, in the project, and in the application you build it. It's reusable. So yeah, so let's copy that, which I already did, and then Control Alt, and then paste. Great. So we have the BG gradient. That's the start. Okay, and then this is the end. So basically, we just added a hexadecimal color here and a hexadecimal color here, and we gave it a name that we can then call with, I believe, is VS with the method. We'll see the method sooner or later. And the base text color is going to be text main. All right. So, and then the muted text, which I'm not sure what that is right now. Muted text is text that can be changed. So, so let's just ask him to do the rest because right now I do not have the memory or the brain power to figure this out. So we're gonna go ahead and ask him over there. All right. So this is everything we need to know as of right now. Control Alt, Control V. So now everything's in here. But now we have to use it, right? So this is again the page gradient token. It's just giving it a name and a color, one color here, one color there. And then we use both of these in order to create like a color that's gradient that shifts from one color to another. So now we have the text color. The text color is basically for the text. So we have the main text color and the muted, centralized muted text. So if we ask them what this mean, I believe it has to do with that it's changeable. Does this mean that we can change it? Or it's probably the opposite. Let's see. Yes, absolutely. Muted text is just a designer's term for text that is made to look less prominent, usually by making it lighter color like gray, so it doesn't distract from the main heading because you put inside you can easily change that hex code whenever you want to try a different shade to actually apply. Well, if you ever wanted to make it, yeah, I mean, the term muted means changeable, means that it's changeable. I think that's a word. I understand what you're asking. No, and this doesn't mean changeable. It actually means toned down or softened. Oh, okay. So I wasn't right about that. But I think there is a terminology that that's mutable. That I think is immutable. What was that terminology? I know it sounds similar to that word. That means that it could that is interchangeable. It's a muted variable, something like that. We'll look into that as we keep moving along and moving forward and learning. Let me ask him. Let me ask him and see if we could find that one. I am talking about a specific term used in coding that states that a variable can be changed. I believe is the let declaration. It sounds like the word muted or mutable. Jeez, my spelling's so bad. Ah, there you go. Oh, you are thinking of mutable, and it's opposite of immutable. You hit the nail on the head. In programming, mutable means something can be changed or altered after it's created. I know something. I just can't remember everything off of the top of my head because this is not my 9 to 5. Again, I just love to code, and I'm very passionate about this about coding. And my English is not my first language, so it's quite difficult for me to, yeah, that. Immutable means it cannot be changed, right? Did I say mutable? I said mutable. I'm talking about, let me see. Yeah, mutable. And I spoke, oh, I forgot the A. I was close. All right, so you are also, all right, so mutable. Immutable means it cannot be changed. You are absolutely completely right about let versus const. Um, constant in JavaScript. When you declare a variable with let, you are telling the computer that the variable is reassignable. It can point to a new value later. When you use constant, it's short for constant, meaning you cannot reassign it. So your brain absolutely made the right connection. Why, thank you for the compliment. Mutable sounds exactly like muted, but they mean completely different things in coding. Okay, great. So made my point there. Now we need to head to the next lesson. All right, so now we're gonna create a selector, select all selector, set boxing, so padding and widths stay predictable while you size the card. So we're gonna do this, copy here, and then create another rule. In this case, it's a asterisk select all rule. I forgot the term for that too. I think this is a select all asterisk. Yeah, something. All right, so we're gonna take this over here. This is constructive. Put this in here. Just format it, make it look nice. You can tab. That's fine. Well, you gotta put the don't forget about putting the semicolon, because if you don't, this is not gonna work. And in the body, remove default margin, set minimum viewport height, center content using grid, pick a readable font, and apply a light gradient background from your root tokens. Yeah, I'm not gonna do all this by myself. I'm just gonna get the help from my user agent here. You see what he says here? Yep. So I did that correctly. You already got the perfect result rule added at the bottom of your CSS panel. Okay, great. By applying this, it's a universal selector. That's what it is. You are telling every single element on the page to change how its total width and height are calculated. So why this is a lifesaver for your car layout, the old default content box, if you gave a car width of 300 pixels and added 20 pixels of padding, the browser will calculate the total size 300 plus 20 plus 20, which is 340. Your car would unexpectedly stretch and potentially break your layout. So with a border box, when you say a car is 300 pixels wide, it stays 300 pixels wide. And if you add 20 pixels of padding, the browser shrinks the inside space to make room for it. Now, when you style your demo car next, you can confidently give it a specific width padding and borders without worrying about it growing into a giant unpredictable size. All right. So basically, this is the old way. This is like quirk mode, CSS. Quirks mode is the legacy way of giving it a layout. If you gave a card, right? hmm It's just the old way of doing things, and it doesn't work too good. So we already did that part. Let's go ahead and do the other part right here, the body one. This I don't remember either how to do it, but I could explain it best of my ability. So here is how you can write the body block using the tokens you set up earlier. Using CSS Grid, here is a great trick because it makes it incredibly easy to center your demo car perfectly in the middle of the screen, both horizontally and vertically. Add this right below your box size and box border block. All right, let's copy this. Put this right here. And now this is this. You see how fast it worked? Doesn't that look cool? So basically, we have the remote. We're gonna remove the default browser spacing. So if we go over here and we add, let's say, a 8, you see how I moved? All right, so let's go line by line. The 0 here, and I'm going to take away the rest. All right, so now we took up the margin. However, if I put the 8 over here, see, it moves to the right. So by default, this is what it has, 8 pixels. It's 8 pixels, right? It's 8 by default. But we by default the browser adds 8 pixels. So if you count from the left to the right, it's 8 pixels. So if we put the 0, now we took it off. That's the whole point of our recipe, our sandbox recipe trigger is telling us remove default margin. Default margin is 8 pixels, default margin from the browser. Then it says set minimum viewport height. So the viewport height is this one, right? So we enter it right here. Tab. So now the viewport height. Let's take this part off. The comments could give us a silent error. All right. So this is the height. Minimum height, 100 viewport height. So it gives us the viewport. The viewport is what we're seeing in here, and this white canvas right here, right? That's the viewport height. And then we're gonna. It says here, center content using grid. So this is a trick, a quick trick that you can use to center your content. That's what we're gonna do here. See? That's the trick. Display grid and then place content center. This is a known piece of code that all developers use. That's pretty much what they mean by a trick. You see, using CSS grid, here's a great trick because it makes it incredibly easy to center your demo card perfectly in the middle of the screen, both horizontally and vertically. There's another way that you could center things, but I believe it has to do with transform -50, something like that. But that's something that we're gonna get into as we move forward. And this is a beginner tutorial because I am practically a beginner. Um, I'm just familiar with the code. That's all. So we're gonna learn together the right way. And then it says here, right? So now we're gonna create the demo card, right? We're gonna add a max width. So let's go ahead and prompt him to help us with this. Wait, I haven't finished yet. I have to add this one here. And this is the typography. So this is simple. Let me see what it is. Let me look at the code. Font family. Okay, did it change or did it not change? Okay, so it did change. Look at the screen right here, the viewport, the screen, the live preview pane, which is the viewport pretty much for this. Our viewport, I think it's the whole screen over here, including the the taskbar, I think we call this, or the search bar. Yeah, it's a little late. And then we're just gonna paste it in here. And now you see the difference? Let me do it again. Control V. There you go. So I added these styles, the font family, system UI. I think this is the typical geeky fonts for like computer fonts. That's why it looks like this, the font. And then we have the another one here, which is called Blink Max system fonts. And these are like fail-safe fonts, just in case if it doesn't have this one, then it uses this one. If it doesn't have this one, and it's sans serif. Right, so let me ask him if I'm correct about this. I think the correct word is fail-safe or something like that. Is right. So is system the main font, and if it is, are the others a fail-safe mechanism? Let's see what he says. Exactly, you nailed it. In CSS, this is called fallback. Okay, not fail-safe. I know it's fallback. I just couldn't at the moment remember. So this is called a fallback font stack, and it reads from left to right. So here is exactly how the browser handles it. System UI is the primary choice, right? The rest are fail-safe, right? So, and then sans serif is the ultimate safety net. If the browser strikes out on every single specific font name listed, this final keywords tells it just use whatever generic clean font without little feet you have installed without little feet. Okay, without the little feet. That's so serif is the one that has like the little wings on top of each letter, and he's calling it feet. So let me show you an example. Show me an example of serif. So I can show you the difference with little feet. You see right here. You see those little feet? It's funny because it's not really showing it here. Yeah, like these are the feet right here, I guess. No little feet. Let's go to Google to the actual search, Google search, and it will show us a better understanding of what he means. Okay, so sans serif is a small decorative line or stroke attached to the ends of the larger strokes in a letter. See this right here. You see? Those are feet. And then obviously sans serif wouldn't have those little feet. Okay, great. So we learned some learning moment. That's all. So now we were correct about this. This is the main or the chosen, what did he say here? The primary choice. That's the primary choice, guys. By the way, I came out of work like around 9 p.m. My job has to do with walking, so my brain might be a little TMI, right? So this is the primary choice, and everything else is a a fallback mechanism. The rest are fail-safe fallbacks. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. The next the next action we should take is the H1 and status text. Tighten heading, spacing, and set status text to muted colors so it reads like helper feedback. So let's go ahead and give this to our needy user agent. He needs more prompts. Let's give him more prompts. So here's how you can write the CSS for your heading and status text to give them that clean professional hierarchy. Add this code right below. Okay, we're gonna copy this and we're gonna add it right below. Let's make sure we give it some space. Control V. So now, what did it do? Let's see. Okay, so it's tightened it. It made it a little smaller. That's all. Control C. Oh, oh. Control Y. Okay. Okay, great. Control C. Let's see. No, I'm taking everything on. Control Y. Control Y. Control Y. There you go. So basically, if I press Control C, it takes it off, but then I'm gonna put it back, and I'll put it back. So now if we look at the code, the H1, the margin top is 0. So basically margin, it's outside of the container of the H1. So we're talking about this container right here. So if I highlight it, right, the container, it's outside. So outside we got a margin 1. No, margin top equals 0, the top only. And we don't have no padding. Margin bottom is 8 pixels. Now we gave this space over here between the waiting for your click and mini shop demo. And the font size is 1.5 rem. So this would be the default setting. I don't think we don't have any root font size. So it's gonna take the browser's default font size, which is 16 pixels. But since we're using RAM, you have to multiply it by 16. So in this case, it's probably 18 pixels. So let me ask them. This means 16 pixels times 1.5, right? Let's see what he says. You're exactly up. So I was right. So it's 24 pixels. So it says here by default in almost all modern browsers, the root font size of one RAM is equal to 16 pixels. So your math is perfect. 16 pixels times 1.5 equals 24. Why RAM is better than pixels? RAM stands for root element. So the root element, right? So it is directly tied to whatever font size the user has set in the browser setting. If a user with perfect visions, okay, so let me show you what I mean. So if we go to the root and we set the size to oh, what happened there? Uh-oh. All right. So everything's still intact, right? Let me see. Yep, everything's still intact. So if I go over here, oh, if I go over here and I go all the way up here and I add another rule, right? And this rule is gonna be font size. Right, so this rule is gonna be font size. Right. So no, I have to give it a yeah, let's just say the root is gonna be font size. Um let's say 16 pixels, right? It should make it bigger now. Did it? Am I writing the rule? Oh, I didn't write. Yeah, that should be correct though. Maybe I'm missing something. Let me ask them. So if I add at the roots, let me see, at root, then it should be, wait, no. Let me put 20, 24 actually. Let me put 26. Oh, there you go. See? So because when I put 16, it didn't change because by default, the default of the browser is 16. So it wasn't going to change. But since now that I put 26 pixels, now it's 1.5 times 26 pixels. So let me finish prompting him that question. So if I add font 26 at the root, then it should be um 24 pixels times 1.5 RAM. Right. So I mean we already saw close, but let's tweak the map. If you set it to inside the root, then one becomes exactly 26, exactly. So for your H1, which is set to 1.5 RAM, the math shifts to right. So your heading size jumps to 39. Great. So I was correct again. Yeah, now I'm getting tired. Drink coffee. Oh my god, I lost everything. Let me see. Is it still recording? Okay, it is. Oh my god, I dozed off. More coffee. All right, so I'm seeing it looks like I have one person online, but not sure. Oh, wait a minute. I have another person online. Let me see what's going on over here. Man, how are you? I need another monitor because this is not fun looking through this. Um, let's see. Why? See new message? Yeah, I don't see anything. Uh-oh. Anyways, this was fun. Okay. Anyways, back to this. I don't know what's going on over there. I'm new to this stuff. This Twitch. It's fine. I'll get used to it. It'll probably take me a couple of months. Maybe a month or two and I'll master it to some extent. Just I have 2 followers. That's nice. Okay, so what's next here? Let's look at the next line of code. Okay, so we tightened the default browser spacing around the heading, which is here. Right, we gave it margin top. Well, we took away the margin top. We made sure that the property is assigned 0. I don't know if the proper word to say is initialized. Let me ask him if this is the proper wording. Is being initialized is the property, because that's what it is. The property margin top 0 being initialized or assigned. And the context CSS mark is being assigned or applied. Here's the difference between the two terms when you are writing code. Initialize means creating something for the very first time. Exactly. That's why I thought it was being assigned, because we're not creating that property for the very first time. That property is a built-in property, CSS built-in property. So yeah, creating something for the very first time and giving it a starting value. Browsers automatically initialize the margin top property for every HTML element behind the scenes with the default value. So assignment means you are stepping in and giving an existing property a new value. By writing margin top in your style sheet, you are overriding the browser's default settings and assign a new value of 0 to that property. So I think I stand corrected. It's a pre-existing property, so you can't initialize it. You could reassign it, which is what we're doing. We assigned it. Okay, great. Learning moment, people. We're all learning here. Okay, great. So again, let me go back to the last rule or property that we added, and the next property we're gonna add is the status text. So if we read over here, it's good to follow through with the instructions, right? So the H1, it's a little slow. So the H1, it says here, H1 and status text. Tighten the heading spacing and set status text to muted color so it reads like a helper feedback. So let's look at it. So the H1 and the status, remove default margins so it sits closer to the heading. And then we have to apply to the text, that's the muted part, apply your centralized muted color token. So the color is going to be text muted, right? Which is up here. We're adding a custom CSS variable or a custom property, which is the text main or text muted right here. Centralized muted. And the font size is 0.95 rem. So it's going to be that 26 pixels times 0.95 rem. And this is why we get this size and the color, which is the text muted. Okay, guys? It's that simple, right? Just learn how to read your code, and then hopefully you could type it by memory one of these days. And hopefully, I'm gonna be one of those because I forgot all the codes. I don't remember them by memory. So now what's the next one? So we're gonna go ahead and apply some CSS to the action class. We're gonna set a horizontal layout and gap so both buttons sit cleanly on one line. So let's go ahead and do that. I think we have to use flex this time. Or grid. Let me see what he does because I do not recall. Let's go ahead and do this over here and ask him to do it for us. Okay, control copy. Now it's time to bring that row container to life. Add this right into your action block at the bottom. So we want to, yeah, there you go. Like I said, flex. Learning moment. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy, right? I'm gonna put it right in here. Control V, and then, okay, let's see what happened. So basically, it's asking us to set a horizontal layout and a gap so both buttons sit cleanly on one line. Okay, so the buttons are gonna change. So let's do this again. I think why it works here. The buttons didn't change. So let's see. Turn the div into a true flex row container. Great. Put a clean modern gap between the two buttons. Oh, okay. So there's a gap over here. How do we know this? Simple. We play around with it, right? Put a two here. See? Put another two here. You see? You saw them move, right? Look at this right there. Take away the two, they move. Put a three, they move. Now put a two, and then we're gonna leave it at 12. Okay, great. Progress. Okay, great. It's displayed flex, so now it's really a row. Now we're gonna push the row slightly away from the top paragraph above it. So here's the margin. Let me see. Okay, so between here and here, there's a margin of 20 pixels. So margin, it's outside, and we're only adding the top, not the bottom. So if you count from here to here, it's 20 pixels. I believe, yeah. From here to here is 20 pixels. I'm not sure if we got ask them. Yeah, we can definitely identify that. So between the buttons and the paragraph, we have a gap of 20 pixels. Right? This is simple. You stop the response, huh? Let me do it one more time. Control copy, Control V, and enter. Oh, there it is. Looking at it, you actually have a margin tab of 20 separating them right now rather than CSS. Yeah. So while they look similar on the screen, there is a technical difference to how it works. What you have is margin on the action, on actions. Yeah, the action class. Let's look at our, oh wait, the div container. Yeah, so it's inside the actual container, which holds the buttons. Okay, yeah, that's what I was talking about, inside the button. In this container right here. So this pushes the entire box 20 pixels away from the paragraph. Exactly. It's from the top over here. So from here, it's 20 pixels all the way up there. So from the button, from the top of the button, it's 20 pixels between the paragraph and button. Okay, so what would the gap do? The gap property only works inside a flex or grid container to separate its own children, which is why your gap 12 is currently putting space between the buy and the reset button. So let me see the gap real quick. Okay, here's the gap. Put a clean modern gap between the two buttons. That's the gap. Okay, now I'm getting sleepy. All right, guys. Let's finish up right here. Let's wrap it up. The gap property only works inside flex or grid containers to separate its own children. Great. It's currently putting space between the buy and reset button. All right, so let's move on to the next question or the next direction. So we're gonna use, so it says button apply share button shape, spacing, font weight, and pointer cursor for consistent intersection. Let me go right here, control copy, and then do I have a final output here? I used to have the final results here, and I took it off because I didn't want to have it. Because then we would just copy and paste everything instead of doing this. Even though we're doing a lot of copy and pasting over here, at least we're reading. So I'm showing you how this works. You read, you research, and eventually you'll figure it out. Obviously, the user agent is giving us the answer, but we're learning at the same time. You know? We're asking questions, prompting questions, and then reading the answers, and then confirm it, and I vetted it, and then it's how one way of learning. You know, by the time we perfect this, we're not gonna need the user agent to do it for us. We're gonna do this by memory. That's the goal, obviously. So we're gonna go ahead and copy this and then apply shared button shape. Apply shared button shapes. Okay, let's just go ahead and put this in here. Plus, I'm very tired, so my brain is not. I'm not thinking. I'm not calling the right answers to my head. I just want to code. That's all for now. Here's how you can write the base styling for your button. Apply these rules directly to the button type. Ensure that both your buy and reset buttons are shared the exact same from the foundations like shape, padding, and mouse cursor, which keeps your user interface looking clean and consistent. And add this code below your action block and the CSS. So let's go ahead and add this. This is for the button. So let's go ahead and add it. We're gonna see what it looks like, and then I'm gonna explain the code. Wait, something just happened here. No, everything's the way it's supposed to. Great. So now the buttons, the styles. Now it has styles. It didn't have styles before. We just created the button and we added some spacing, a gap. Let's see. Yeah, we added a gap to the button. And that's because action, this is the div for the button, and it's called action. At least the class is. And we added a gap of 12 pixels, and we added a margin of 20. So now, and we made a display flex. In order to add gap, it has to be display flex. It has to be assigned. The display has to be assigned flex. Okay, so now that we did that, we went over here and we took the actual button, which is here, and and we're not going to use the class this time. We're going to use the buttons of selector. In this case, is an element. We're going to select it by element, right? Let me ask them if that's what this means. The button element is selected in JS DevTools with get element by, I don't know, I think it's get element by element. Let's see, but I know that I'm pretty close. In JavaScript, there are a few different ways to select element from DOM depending on what you're looking for. The method that starts with get element by is document get element by ID. Note that ID is singular. However, you have a few excellent options depending on how you want to grab your button. By ID, okay, I know by ID. I was talking about element. By class name, no. The modern favorite of query selector. Which one is this one? Document, yeah. Most modern JavaScript developers actually skip the get element by ID method entirely and use query selector. It lets you select elements using the exact same syntax used in your CSS file. So query selector, right? But I'm talking about. Oh, okay. Yeah, but that's okay. Here it is. Is the tag. Okay, so how do you select the tag with the document with the get element? Okay, so how do you select the tag with get element? That's what I want to know. But since I see it's the point of research, you research something, you get something else, and now you learn something else, and then you make sure you figure out also what you were researching in the first place. That's work. If you want to select a plain HTML tag name like HTML P button using a method that starts with the get element, use the get element by tag name. Self-explanatory. There are two super important things to look out for with this one. It is plural elements because there can be many buttons or p tags on the page. JavaScript returns collection of all of them. It returns an array like list. Even if there is only one tag on the page, you still have to tell JavaScript which one you want using a number of index. So starting with 0, tell JavaScript which one you want using an index number, starting at 0 for the first one. To grab your first button, okay, that makes sense. To grab your second button, right, because the index starts at 0, not at 1. That's why the second one is 1. To grab your heading, okay, that makes sense. While get element by tag name works perfectly, it is a bit old school and clunky because of that 0. If you want to grab the very first tag it finds without messing with the index, most developers use query selector. So the JavaScript would be, we're going to give it, okay, so we're going to create a variable with the identifier first button called first button, and then we're going to declare it No, we're gonna initialize it and assign it the button elements. So much cleaner. Great. So if you guys want to know if I got that phrase correctly, I'm gonna go ahead and ask them if this is correct. So in JavaScript, so in this JS code, we are going to create a variable with the identifier called first or named. Let me put named. Maybe that'll, it's more term appropriate. Named first button, and we are going to initialize it with the query selector button and assign it the button. Let's see if I got this one right. Even though it's a little clunky though, let's clear up the terminology slightly because you are very close, but the order of how we say it matters in coding. This is exactly how a developer would describe the line of code. You are creating a variable with the identifier first button, right? Initializing it with the value returned. Yes. I think I said it, but you know, English is not my first language, but that's an excuse. I should know how to say it perfectly correct. But I believe I was very close, like he said over here. So you are creating a variable with the identifier first button, initializing it with the value returned by document. Right. So the value that we return, which is button, is being initialized and assigned to first button, which successfully finds and assigns the actual HTML button element to that variable. In actual JavaScript code, it looks like this. Yeah. So breaking down your sentence step by step, the identifier is first button is the name you choose. That's the name we chose, which is the identifier. The selector is this over here, is the action. It goes out to your HTML. It goes out to my HTML over here and it looks for button and it finds it. It's the action. It goes into HTML, looks for the very first button, tag it, tag, it can find and grabs it. And then it initializes it and then it assigns it. The equal operator takes the grabbed HTML button and assigns it directly into your first button variable so you can use it later in your script. So you've got the concept down perfectly. Are you ready to write this into your JavaScript pane and use it to make the button actually do something when clicked? So yeah, that's good. Learning moment, people. Pay attention how we do this. How you learn without watching videos. Um, This is hands-on, guys. If you're a hands-on learner like I am, this is hands-on. Even though there's a lot of copying and pasting going on, there's also researching. When you prompt and you search, that's what I'm doing is searching, and you find answers. Um, it took some time out of us, some work out of us to do that. And you know, if you don't put in the work, you're not gonna get the benefits of what you want. No pain, no gain, right? So as much fun as I'm having, it's not like I'm being fed grapes like a king or a prince. Yeah. All right. So let's keep moving. So I think we got all the code. We figured out what these each line of code does already. I think so. Are we missing one? Where did I leave off? What was my last prompt? Okay, so we was talking about selecting a tag. We got that. We figured it out. There's two ways. There's the query selector, and then there's the get element by tag name with the appropriate index. All right. So everything looks good. Still recording. All right, great. So, hmm, why does it say 33? Not sure what this means. All right, let's keep it moving. Everything's working still. Okay, great. So a quick reality check works. Okay. So let's see what was my last CSS. My last CSS was on the action, on the button. And that's why they look like this. Great. And I believe, oh no, we haven't gone through all the information, all the lines of codes on our button. No, sirree. No, we haven't. Yeah, we didn't even start it. We just started the actual button rule. Okay, so we're gonna create this rule. And then we're gonna assign the padding 10 pixels by 20 pixels. So the padding is what's inside the div or inside here, inside the button. That's why it's it's 10 pixels. No, it's 10 over here and then 20 over here, I believe. So it's spacing inside the button, exactly. So it's y times is y then x. No, no, it's top. Uh, let me see if I get this right. So padding means so 10 pixels. It means let me see. So y and then x. I think I'm correct here. Exactly. You got it perfectly. When you provide the two values to the padding property, the browser always reads them as top and bottom, left and right. So in your code, 10px applies to the y-axis, like I said, and top and bottom, top and bottom, 10 pixels. And this is x-axis, left 20, left, right 20. Okay, great. So we got that part right. I don't remember. Okay, so now we're gonna go to the border none. So no border here, but if I put here, let's say 2 pixels, 2 pixels, you see? Hmm, I thought it was pixels. It's only two? Okay. So if we put two here, we got a border. If we put four here, we got a thicker border. Is it border radius? If I put a 9 here, it's not growing, and it's because I believe it's because of the margin. All right, so let's just put here none. And then here, I think is gonna grow. If I put here a 1, oh wait, I gotta give it color. I put here a 1. Okay, so border radius just makes it round, the edges. It makes it round. So I take it off. It's not round anymore. All right. So that's how that works. But I want to understand border. So means no border or lining around the button. All right, that's correct. Spot on. Border none means exactly that. It completely removes the outline or frame around the button. By default, web browsers give buttons a gray, slightly 3D looking border. Written Writing border none strips that away entirely, giving you a clean slate so that your background color determines the shape of the button. Looking at your live preview, you can see this in action. Your two buttons currently look like clean, borderless gray rectangles because they are relying purely on their shape and background. So let's say we take it off and see if we can spot the difference. That gray border. Oh, okay, there it is. So it's there. Let's put it back. And let's put 10, like I said the last time. And if we put pixels, it doesn't work. And I wonder why. Let me put 10. But when I put this, when I, but when I change the property, but when I change the property, but when I change the property value from 2 to 10, there is no difference in the size of the border. And when I add px to it, it disappears. Let's see what he says about that, because I'm kind of curious why. I forgot. Oh, you hit an important CSS rule here. There are two reasons why your border isn't changing size right now and why it completely disappears when you add pixels. Let's break down how the border shorthanded property actually works. Why border 10 doesn't change anything in CSS. Units are mandatory for borders. If you write just a plain number like border 10, or border 2, the browser sees it as invalid code and completely ignores it. Right now, your border aren't showing a 2 pixels or 10 pixels border. They are actually falling back to the browser's default internal border button styles. Why border 10 pixels makes it disappear entirely? As he says, wait, I don't understand this one. Units are mandatory for borders. If you write just a plain number like 10, I might have to ask him to give me an example here. So it says here, when you use the shorthand border property, the browser expects up to 3 pixels to move. Okay, in this exact order. So the pixel, okay. Ah, yes. Of course it doesn't work. We're missing properties. The values. I think those are called values. He needs to give me the right terminology for the width style color, whatever. I think that's good enough. I'm not gonna dive that deep in there. So basically what I had to do was to get my desired um expected output. I had to put the 10 pixels, right? And then solid, right? There you go. And then let's say red, learning moments. And I put in the work. He gave me some of the answer, but he didn't give me the whole code together. I knew what to do, right? I could have easily put a comma here, right? And a comma here, right? And it still works. But what if I would have decided to put a semicolon here? See, it wouldn't work. So I know something. I know that I shouldn't put a comma and I shouldn't put a semicolon and it will work properly. So small progress, small steps, baby steps moving forward. So let's see. Makes it disappear entirely because we need three pieces of information. Let me ask them, are these three pieces of information called properties or 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 or, or property values? Are these three pieces of information called, what is it called again? Property values? I think I need to sleep, people, because now I'm asking really, um, mm, I don't want to call it unnecessary questions. Are these three pieces of information called property values for the value property? Almost. The three pieces of information together are actually called the property value. I need to sleep. So yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, are these three pieces of information called property value? No, he says close. Almost. The three pieces of information together. Oh, together. Well, yeah, are actually called a property value, but each individual piece is inside has a specific name, border. So border is the property or property name. 10 and whatever is the entire um piece of information is called property value. So breaking down the value, because border is a shorthand property, its value is made up of three distinctive parts. That's why it's called property value. It's just one block of code altogether called the property value. So you're completely right that the whole bundle is the value, but developers break it down into the width, style, color values when talking about them individually. Okay, great. So now I have to finish this up as quick as possible. So now let's leave it as 0 because we want to take off that specific border that the browser by default gives it. And the border radius makes it round on the edges, on the corners, edges. And then we're going to give it a typography of 600, makes the button text slightly bold and punchy. So if we were to put text in here, this is the first button. If we say here start and we put here end, that's what it will look like. This is the typography is giving it. So if we put here 900, see, it makes it bolder, but we're gonna leave it at 600. All right. So now we're gonna change the mouse cursor to a hand pointing icon on hover. See this? I want to change it into a pen. Can we change the cursor pointer to a pen? Let's see what he said. Can we change the into a pen or something, or or a different cursor or something else? Let's put something else. This is my normal way of speaking. Makes it easier for me. I don't want to think too hard right now. So yes, absolutely. You can change it to a variety of built-in styles, or even you use your own custom image like a tiny emoji or icon. So built-in browser cursor. CSS has several built-in cursors you can use immediately just by changing the keyboard. A cell turns the cursor into a thick plus sign crosshair. Often looks like an Excel selector tool. help adds a small question mark, or the question mark, and then the weight turns into hourglass. The classic, huh? Crosshair, a think precise plus sign, and then not allow a red circle with. So let's change it into the cell, just because I haven't seen that pointer in years, because I haven't used Excel in years. All right, there you go. Yeah, that's definitely Excel. Okay, so what's next? So where were we? We were in button apply, and number 8. Add a variant color from tokens and hovered state for obvious interactivity. So let's see what we get out of here. Perfect. Let's wire up the specific color for each button variant and create that smooth hover effect using the CSS design token you already have defined in your root. Add this chunk of code to the very bottom of the CSS. We're going to copy this. And let's look at it really quick. We have the button class, the hover button class, secondary button class, and the other button class. Did we add any of these classes here? Oh, we did. Okay. So now we're gonna go ahead and go down here. We're gonna add it here. Oh, it's 3 in the morning. Oh, look at that. That was quick. Control V. So basically, the first class we added, and let's see, each button has the same class. Okay, so each button has the same class. We got the buy button and the ID. No, it's different classes. Why would it have different classes though? Okay, so let's see. The buy button hover is gonna change to a different color. So let's hover. Okay, so it's dark blue. And then it's light blue when we're not hovering over it. The transition is gonna take 2 seconds and it's gonna be eased. Smoothly phase the color change. Okay, so it's gonna take 2 seconds or milliseconds for it to change. And then we have the reset secondary button variant. It has a hover effect too. That's it. Okay, great. All right, that was pretty cool. And now we're gonna add the actions. Let's go over here. This is for the oh shit. So see, excuse my language. And then we're gonna copy it and query buy button, reset button, and status and text. By ID, create a click variables starting at 0 increment on buy click and update the status message with the total, then reset clicks and restore the original text on reset clicks. Okay, so let's do that. We're going to put this in here, see what he tells us. Says here's the complete JavaScript code to make your shop cart interactive. Copy and paste this directly into your JavaScript pane at the bottom left. Okay, great. So we'll go here and copy it here. And whoop, we have an error. Cannot read property of no reading add event listener. So it's trying to select buttons. Let me give them a screenshot. It's gonna give them 2. Control print. Control V. Oh, it's not taking screenshots. Let me copy this and see what he says. Control copy. Control V. Error. Oh, the classic cannot read property of no error. This is the most common bug developers run into when selecting HTML elements. The error means that one of your documents selected by the callbacks came back empty, handed. No. So JavaScript crashed when it tried to attach the add event to a variable that doesn't actually. Looking at your sandbox code, you have a tiny typo in HTML. Okay, so here's the culprit. Take a close look at your reset button in the HTML panel. Reset button. Let me take a look at it. Well, I'll look at it from here. So the syntax looks correct though. Oh, that's the problem right here. Let's take that off. It has a backtick. This backtick here. So now, did it work? See that extra backtick? Because of that, the browser registered the ID of that button as reset button instead of reset button. Oh, as backtick, reset button. So the backtick, reset button, backtick instead of just reset button. When your JavaScript runs document.getElement by backtick reset button, it looks for a clean reset button ID, fails to find it, and returns null and breaks the whole script. So here's how to fix it. Go to HTML, fix the ID by deleting residential backtick, changing it exactly to this. So click the run button at the top right of your sandbox to rebuild it. Once the type is clear, let's run it. All right, so let's see. The error will vanish and your counter will start working. Okay. Oh, it worked. So before this, let's see. So before this, it doesn't work. You see? Click it. But as soon as we add this, now it works. Now the counter increments. Now let's take a look at the actual JavaScript and see if we can explain most of it. So right now, the first step is to query the HTML element by ID or IDs, right? So we're going to create a constant variable with the identifier by button, right? It's named by button. That's the name of the variable. We're identifying it by calling it by button. Then we're going to get the ID by button and we're going to assign it and initialize it to by button. Now, if we look at by button, which is right here. So now, so let's keep reading. Then we assign the reset button to the reset button, which is this one over here, reset button. And then we have buy button. This is the reset button. Then we could have another one called status text. And status text is obviously the paragraph right here. Okay, so let's keep reading. So initialize the click counter variable. So we're going to initialize it and give it a 0, right? So we're going to create a variable called clicks and we're going to give it 0. Now we're going to increment that counter and update text when by starts is clicked. So we're going to listen for the clicks. Then we're going to increment each time we click it by 1. And then the text is going to be total clicks, which is here. And then it's going to print out. This gives us the text content method or function. This is a dot notation. It goes from status text, which is over here, status text, and then status text then calls the text content, something like that. I'm not gonna go into. I probably should. This is very important. And then it assigns it this value right here, and then reset counter restores original text when reset end is clicked. So it listens for the event listener. Click equals 0, and then it says waiting for your click. So let's see. Yeah, then it puts it back to waiting for your click when we click end. So you would think that it would have a print. This automatically printed. So let me see if I got this right. This should be the question to close the night out, to close it out. So does so let me see. So status text, that text content is a dot notation, that no notation method that calls is a dot notation. Let me see. I definitely I misspelled this. Okay, that's fine. A dot is a dot notation method in which status text calls text content to then use text plus JS variables to display the result. Now, this is my best when my brain like asleep. You are very close. Let's tweak one word in that description to make it technically precise. Status.text content is dot notation, but text content is actually a property, a variable that lives inside the object, not a method. So what's the object? Not a method, a function. Here's how you can visualize the breakdown. Status text. This is an object, the actual HTML element we grabbed from the page. I need to get back to object-oriented programming, which I believe Java initiated. Maybe it was C++. So no, it was Java. Status text. This is the object, the actual HTML element we grabbed from the page. Okay, that's why it's an object. But why not call it an element? Dot notation, this is a separator used to look inside the object. So we looked in the object and it had a property called text content. Text content, this is a property that represents the raw text inside the HTML element. Because it is a property, you changed it using an equal sign to assign a value. If it were a method, a function, you would call it using parentheses, right? We're not using parentheses. Like this. Sound text update hello. Update text hello. Which doesn't exist. The final action. You hit the nail on the head for the rest of it. By signing a string template containing plain text in your JavaScript variable, you are telling the browser to dynamically update the DOM and display the final results right on the screen. Now, I think it's wrong for me to give up because I'm tired. I have some very good questions to ask. Let's see. You are very close. Let's tweak one word in that description to make it technically precise. Status text dot text content is dot notation, but text content is actually a property. A variable that lives inside the object, not a method. So here's how you can visualize the base. Status text. This is the object, right? The actual HTML element we grabbed. You're right. This is separate text. This is a property that represents the raw text. I think he answered it so well that I don't think my questions are even viable. Let's take a look at the code one more time. Yeah, this is perfect. This is something that I can actually remember. This is how well I understand it right now. Wow, this is amazing. Amazing. But I really want to ask more questions. I really do. But it's so well put. Except that okay, so here's the question I want to ask. How is this a property of this object? Is a property because it's using it. So let me see. So how is text content a property? Is it because status the object is using slash changing slash updating? Yeah, I'm all over, yeah. Using, changing, updating it. How is text content a property of status text? Is it because the object is using it, changing it? I am asking because, well, it's true because text content is built in property. But then I think also about CSS properties, and if it's a class, then the properties belong to the to that class rule. Yeah, this is very sloppy, that answer, but I think I might be a little close. You're making some excellent connections here. It is completely normal to feel a bit tangled up between JavaScript properties, CSS properties, and class because programming languages share a lot of the same vocabulary words but mean slightly different things by them. Let's untangle exactly how status text and text constants relate to each other and how that compares to CSS. In JavaScript, think of an object as a folder. In JavaScript, an object is just a collection of information packaged together. You can think of an object like a digital folder on your computer. When you run this line, right, we're going to get the element and assign it to status text. JavaScript goes to your HTML page, wrap that specific tag, p tag, right, and creates an object or folder representative. Inside the folder, JavaScript automatically grants hundreds of built-in variables containing details about the paragraph. That's interesting. Wow. All right. Let's read that one more time. JavaScript goes to your HTML page, grabs that specific tag, creates a folder that represents it. Inside that folder, JavaScript automatically crams hundreds of built-in variables containing details about the paragraph. It's like when we create the class in CSS. Once we create the dot wheel, open and closing parentheses, now we have the permission to use every class that CSS has to offer just because we created that box, that container. Well, in this case, it's not a container, it's a rule. But let's call it a container, just so my brain could wrap around it. So now we created a box, a CSS box. And CSS is like, hey, look, I have all these properties for you. Here, all of them. Use whichever one you want. Okay, I'm gonna use border. Well, here you go, use it. So now it's a that property belongs to that class because we're making, yeah. I'm trying to wrap my head around it again. So it automatically crams. That's the perfect analogy. Inside the folder, JavaScript automatically crams hundreds of built-in variables containing details about the paragraph. In JavaScript, variables that live inside an object folder are called properties. Status is the folder. Text contents is one specific variable, a property inside of that holds a raw text. When you write status.content equals whatever, you're using dot notation to open that folder. Oh wow. Look at the specific variable and change its value. So now we open the folder, we look at the variable, and the variable, I would say by default, is an empty container, which then we could add or change it from empty to not empty. In this case, is a text and a variable that we're gonna add to make a specific dynamic text that can be changed based on the variable. And change its value. The browser notices you change the folder's data and instantly updates your screen. So JavaScript property versus CSS property. You asked about how this relates to CSS property. They are conceptually identical, but they live in different worlds. A CSS property is a visual characteristic of an element. The color, font size, or padding. JavaScript property is a data characteristic of settings of an object. Is it data? Oh, it's a data characteristic or setting of an object, like text content, ID, or class name. In fact, JavaScript actually have a built-in property specifically for handling your CSS inside your status text folder. There is another property called style. If you wanted to change CSS property using JavaScript, you would do this. So status style that color. Oh wow. Oh shit. Not this again. My numlock. I hate when this happens. My numlock on my mouse pad turned on. Anyway, then I can't use the mouse. I turned it off right now. So this obviously I've seen this code hundreds of times, thousands, but I haven't used it in a while. But this, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Even better now that I'm reading it. And and I used it before and I knew how to use it, but it's different when you read it and it makes a lot more sense when it's from a viable source, such as the user agent. In fact, JavaScript object actually have a built-in property specifically for handling your CSS. Inside your status text folder, there is another property called styles. If you wanted to change a CSS property using JavaScript, you would do this. So you you know what, guys? I'm gonna try this out. I'm gonna copy it and then I'm gonna put it right under here. Matter of fact, I'm gonna put it at the end. I'm not sure if this is gonna work. Oh, there you go. So it did work. Status text. This is dot notation. First we get status text. Then we got the property. Now that status text now has it's the folder, and JavaScript gave it all these properties. Here, you could use any of these properties. Okay, I want to choose style, and now that I chose style, now JavaScript puts in a whole bunch of more properties for the styles, and color is one of them. Okay, I'm gonna use color, and I'm changing it. So let me see if I can explain this now that I understand it. So what about classes? Let me see. In modern JavaScript, a class essentially is a blueprint or a factory machine used to stamp out objects. So every time the browser reads HTML tag like P, H1, a button, it uses a built-in blueprint class called HTML, paragraph, element, or button element to stamp out the object folder for you. The blueprint is what guarantees every element you grab will always come with a text content object. The blueprint, I'm really tired. So the folder holding data, property, a variable inside the folder. Great. So I would like to copy all this stuff here. Maybe if I right click in here, print. Hmm. What is it printing? Oh, that's funny. How about if I just copy it or save it? Because I don't save as PDF. There you go. And where is it going to be saved? More settings. All right, let's save it. Okay, great. So I'm gonna go to my program EX. And this is gonna go in my learn JavaScript. Oh, this is a project. It's supposed to say JavaScript tuts. So let me put in HTML, CSS. JavaScript should be in here too. I'll put it in here. Save. And let's see what it looks like. Go to my main folder. Go in here. And let's open this. And it didn't do all of them. Maybe ask them how I can. How can I save this section of for conversations. Because you're working in a custom browser sandbox environment right now, the page doesn't have a built-in or cloud history. If you refresh or close the tab, your code and other. No, I'm talking about our conversation. No, I am talking about our conversation. Ah, my bad. I completely missed it. You want to save this exact chat history so you don't lose our explanation we went through. Yes, since this sandbox doesn't have a safe chat button, here are the absolute best way. The classic copy and paste. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Open up your local editor. Yeah, that's the classic one. Oh, print PDF. I did do that. Instead of selecting a physical printer, look at the Yeah, his save. I know I did do that, but yeah. Let me see. It's over here. Control print. It says all pages, but there's not. It's only one page. Pages per sheet scale. I'm actually do the classic. Then I'm gonna copy all. I don't see the cursor. F11. Where's the cursor? There's the yeah, the cursor or the whatever that is. Chats are reviewed and used in okay, great. So now I'm gonna go all the way down. Uh-oh. Did it freeze? I think it froze. Mm. All right, so let's do it the classical way. And then I'm gonna ask it to create a MD file with it. Control copy. I'll put it in my notepad. Control me. Control V. It took away all the styles, and then I don't think this has a user agent, does it? Hmm. Because I'm wondering if it has a user agent because he did make some changes for me. Do we have view in here? Edit file. Nope. So I'm gonna take all those. Copy. And I'm gonna tell him to create a MD file. Hey, listen, you asked for it, huh? Can you create uh can you convert this into an markdown file format? Let me just say file. Let me see what happens. Here is our entire conversation nicely formatted, right? Oh, I could have just typed. I didn't even have to copy all this, but yeah. Yeah, no, he didn't do that. He did not. No, he did not. He definitely didn't put it in CSS. Let me just ask my other guy over here to do this for us. Put it right in here. Let's see. Please make this into a markdown transcript or file. Use the flow. Let me see. We can, I don't think it's gonna work here. Use the flow. Let me press here, Control P. And, uh-oh, we don't have one here. It's over here. Trigger. Flow. Control find, flow. I actually have this in my notepad. Control copy. Okay. Please make this into a markdown transcript profile. Use the original flow layout transcript. So let's see what he's gonna do. Because for some reason this becomes quite a challenge for them sometimes. But my guy over here is no joke. So let's see how he's gonna pull it off. Wow, I think that it's gonna surpass 500 lines of code of text or syntax text. Yeah, it's gonna be maybe like 1,000. It's going up over here. You see, it's going, it's going, it's going, it's gone. All right, perfect. So let's save it. Let's keep it, and now let's open. Great. I could actually make a video tutorial about this. This is we learned it so well. I don't think I'm gonna need the transcript either. This was perfect. So now, what we could do, guys, is that we could use our triggers on the code itself and learn even more. That's what we could do. All right, guys. Thank you for joining me. I'm gonna see you in the next video. It was fun. We'll do it again tomorrow. So I can stop it. Uh-oh. Yeah. Hopefully, I recorded all this stuff. It's probably still recording. Yeah, it's froze. I'll have to stop it. Yeah, this isn't gonna work. I'm just gonna close it.